Hey everyone, welcome back to True-Moto-Resto, and in this video we're going to carry on trying to get the exhaust manifold, the headers, off this B1200 Bandit, and once they're off then hopefully we can get the engine out. So stay tuned. This is kind of one of the biggest hurdles I've hit so far on this journey, so hopefully we can get through it pretty quickly. Stay tuned. So the plan, as you would have seen in the last video, there's 5 of the 8 Allen bolts, cap bolts, whatever you want to call them, that are basically stripped out. The inside of the Allen, the key just kind of free spins in there. It was like that from the get-go, so somebody has done that in the past. They're really stuck in there. I've got 3 of them out, but the other ones are, of course, the 4 in the center, which are hardest to get at. They're stuck in. And then this one here on the right side of the bike is also stuck. So I have, as I said before, I did order some extraction sockets and whatnot. However, they have not arrived yet. And then the more I thought about it, the more I was concerned about the potential of just snapping the heads clean off, and then, you know, the more bad choices you make in the way you deal with this stuff, then potentially the whole journey becomes incrementally more difficult. So that being said, I have done this, you know, soak it, heat it, soak it, using the penetrating oil actually to cool the bolt after I've heated it with a torch. Done that quite a few times. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean both the inside of that bolt and the outside and the top, because tomorrow morning my plan is to load the bike onto the trailer and go over to my buddy's place, who is a far more accomplished MIG welder than me, because I suck at it, and then hopefully we can weld some nuts on there and get them removed. Though this is kind of, as you saw in the last video, I did manage to do a little nubbin on this bolt here that I was playing with, just trying to get the heat and the wire feed settings correctly set up, and it was okay, but not okay to the point where I would feel comfortable in tackling that particular job that's ahead of us now. So I think that's just best for somebody that has a bit more experience. So there we go. So let's get to cleaning those heads off. Okay, so we got the Bandit is loaded up. So we're gonna get this over to my buddy's place, and he's about 20-25 minutes away. I clean him up as best as I could. Anyway, getting in there is kind of tight quarters, so we'll see how we get in there with the welder. This one here is going to be the hard one to get. And we got it secured down real good. It's not going anywhere. You can't even compress those forks any more than they already are. So just use the wheel chock in my my open trailer. It's just a lot easier to maneuver this trailer than it is the big enclosed one. So yeah, tied down front and back. So by law we have to have them tied front and rear. So we're good to go. Alright, this one has come loose, so alright, so we got 4 of the 5 manifold bolts out. Unfortunately, the fifth one, which was this one here, we thought it was moving, and it basically snapped off. I guess I'm drilling it, so yeah, it was. It looked like it was starting to turn, but of course, when we saw the head moving on the Allen bolt, we thought it was given away the same way as all the others did, but it was actually just about to snap, and then eventually it did. So we tried working it back and forth because we didn't want to go right at it, just trying to crank it loose. So I was working everything back and forth, and this one just cried enough. Yeah, so this is the one that snapped off. We basically welded bolts so we could actually get in there. It's very, very, very tight quarters in there, and so the reason for all of this, I mean, it's not pretty, but it worked. The reason we had to put it all the way up here was when we only welded it down at the base onto the head, we found that the shank of the bolt was starting to twist where the threads were. So my buddy just started throwing weld on where the threads were, and that stopped the bolt from twisting. We had to do that on two of the other ones as well, and that worked well. But unfortunately on this one, as I said, when we thought it was turning and starting to come out, it was actually the shaft or the shank of the head, the manifold bolt that was twisting, and it snapped. So yeah, anyway, onwards. So I dropped off my seat yesterday at an upholstery guy. I never used this guy before because my other upholstery lady was busy until June. So I got this guy's name from another friend of mine. Well, he's never used him either. But so I dropped it off yesterday, and he just called me and said, hey, your seat and your bum pad are ready. So I know it seems awful quick. So hopefully it's a good job. I just picked up the seat, and it looks pretty darn good. We'll get it out when we get home and have a good look at it. But yeah, so far so good, and the bum pad is sitting under there. So yeah, I did a good job as far as I can tell. All right, so there's the seat, and I'd say, I mean, a 10 out of 10 on the seat, and maybe I don't know, I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10 on the bum pad. Yeah, a little bit of puckering in the corners. It's not ideal, but I don't know much about upholstery, but generally speaking, it'll do the job. The seat itself is beautifully done, really nice. So yeah, can't complain about the seat. This is okay, but it's not quite as good as the seat, I guess. But anyway, should look all right when she's all together, I think. So the next thing that's fighting me on this Bandit is getting the sprocket nut off. I bent the lock washer tab back, but I cannot get this thing to budge. I've got, I don't know what's that, 18-inch, 2 feet breaker bar on it. Through the back wheel, I put a number of things, all of which have snapped or bent. I put in a tire iron, a steel tire iron across there, and it just folded like a cheap suit, to the point now where I'm concerned that if I put anything else in there that's stronger, that I'm gonna have a real hard time not damaging transmission gears. I tried an impact gun, no luck. Tried the breaker bar, no luck, and starting to run out of ideas here. I might have to put the torch on it or something, but then I'm worried about damaging the seal in behind if the shaft gets too hot. This thing is just fighting me every step of the way. I just don't want to damage any transmission gears. So yeah, I sent out a bit of a plea for help on a number of forums to see what my options are here. And really, I think there are only two options left. One is heating this with an oxyacetylene torch in case it's been Loctited on, but I'm not comfortable with that option purely because I don't want to damage the seal in behind. I mean, it may not. I mean, this has got a rubber coating on it too, apparently. which could end up making a bit of a mess, but I'm not worried about a mess. I'm just worried about damaging the seal in behind, and I'm not knowing how much this countershaft is going to conduct the heat. That's just not a risk I'm willing to take. So yeah, I'm going to be taking the Dremel tool and I'll cut see how far in there I can get, probably on a bit of an angle. I'll cut through as far as I can, and then I'll use the this cold chisel to split the nut. That should get the nut off, release the tension on there, and then I can I just put a new nut on there. Unless, of course, the one off the GSXR will fit on this Bandit shaft, which it very well may. But yeah, I mean, this Bandit, I mean, I haven't taken that much stuff off it yet, and it's already fought me more than the 86 GSXR that the engine's going into, which sat outside for at least 15 years and was a complete mess. It wasn't half as bad as this to get apart. Okay, so I'm using the smallest Dremel rotary bit that I have, just that way I can get in much closer to make the cut. Obviously I'm checking quite regularly to make sure that I'm not going down to the threads, but the challenge, of course, with any sort of small rotary tool is I'm not going to be able to get in and cut right at the back of this nut. So I think what I'm going to end up trying to do is to put a relief cut across this way. I'll get down as far as I can going laterally across here, and then I'll have to come across the back, or maybe try to put a relief cut in across the back this way here somehow. All right, so I'm slowly eating my way through this this nut. I could actually chew through it much quicker, but obviously I don't want to hit the countershaft threads underneath. So basically I've got a cut going up here, but of course once you get to right where this cross section is, the cut is not as deep because of the shape of the circular bit. So then I'm kind of forced to come back this way. I'm trying to cut on an angle down here, and I figure I've got about 5.7 millimeters between the thread and the outside of the nut. So I'm also trying to gauge and make sure that I'm staying a little less than that, so I don't go through and hit the threads. Occasionally I stop and hit it with a chisel just to see if she's going to break away, but so far it hasn't moved. I've also tried putting the socket back on it and giving it another shot with that, just in case that decides to pop free, but no luck so far. And yeah, I'm not particularly worried about the sprocket. It's got this rubber face on it, which is what's all getting chewed up here. But there's going to be a new sprocket going on anyway. My interest is getting this stupid nut off here. Finally got it. That took a lot of grinding, but eventually I didn't actually get all the way through the nut. I came through most of it, and then see here, where I get the camera on it, just started to break through at the back there. It's kind of got a bit of a hollow back, so I saw the open space when I hit it with the grinder right there, and I thought, okay, well, I'm getting close here, so whacked it with the chisel and she broke loose. That should just polish up just fine to go back on. What do you think? So I managed to get most of the well, I got all of the engine mounts loosened off, or a couple removed, but everything's loose. I also loosened the bolts for the removable frame section. So now I have to go around and basically I'm going to put the lift underneath the bottom of the engine. I'll block it up. Once I get the trolley jack out, I'm going to see if I can get this engine out. I probably would be wise to wait for an extra set of hands, but I've never been accused of being wise, so we'll see how that goes. I may end up tackling this by myself. The other thing I did just to kind of lighten the load, well, it will make it lighter, make it easier to paint and detail the engine. I took the generator out and I took the starter out. I've just plugged the holes there with some shop towel just to keep from getting bits and crap in there. Okay, the trolley jack, bike lift, whatever you want to call it, is underneath the engine. Movable subframe has been removed. All the engine mounts are out. There's one at the bottom down there. If you can't really see it, it's right there. It's out. Top one's out. Front ones are out. Bottom ones are out on both sides. The other thing I did here is just to remove this breather cap off the top of the airbox, not the airbox, the valve cover. So hopefully that gives a little bit more clearance. I figured better take it off. I'd rather get it off in advance and find out I need it, and then I've got to monkey around while I've got this thing suspended awkwardly. Now we're going to go with plan B here. So plan B is going to be, my son and I are just going to muscle this thing out by hand from there over to here, and then hopefully from here over to there. Okay, so the extra pair of hands was, especially stronger pair of hands than mine, was very helpful. So my son pretty much lifted that thing by himself to get it to work right here. It's got to weigh, I would guess, about 150 pounds anyway. So here's the broken lug that has kind of been tormenting my mind for the last few days, right there. So yeah, I'm leaning more towards drilling it and hoping for the best. So yeah, I'm gonna mull that over for another day or so, and then I'm gonna be at the paint booth tomorrow with another project. So I'm not gonna be touching this now until over Sunday today, maybe Tuesday. So yeah, and then once that's out, then I can set about cleaning this thing off, and then after that, it'll be we'll attempt a dry fit, we'll call it a test fit in the GSXR frame, which, yeah, that's going to be interesting. So with no removable frame section, it's going to be very interesting to do. Stay tuned for that. It's going to be a bit of a circus. So there I've got drills all the way through that stud, and I'm pretty happy with how centered I got it. I was only ever so slightly off. The thing is, now I'm not convinced I want to go too much larger than that, because then I'm going to potentially start hitting some threads. So I'm not sure yet what the best route forward is on this one. I elected to go this route, but I'm always terrified of using the bolt extractors, the easy outs, because if they snap off in there, it just becomes a world of hurt. So I'm going to tap around the edges here with either with a chisel or with a punch, just to see if it can start to break the bond around the edges and maybe try to collapse it in on itself. What I don't want to do is to shear the top off. So yeah, I'm not sure how successful that'll be, but if I can start to break the bond between the bolt and the aluminum a little bit, that might be a good thing. I think it occurs to me that would be easier to do if it was drilled out even more. I mean, I'm all the way through, but I mean, when I say drilled out, one bit larger. So I've tried an easy out, and I'm not willing to reef on that any more than I have at this point. I've hit it with some heat on the aluminum, see if I can expand the aluminum faster than the steel. That's not really helping me at all. I've got penetrating oil in there now, and I'm just going to leave that for a while, I think, and see what happens. I think part of the issue with the easy outs is you're actually, it's when you force it in to turn it out, it actually is expanding against the threads, pushing it tighter against the aluminum. to some degree. And I'm somewhat terrified of that easy out snapping off. You know, this one is the biggest one I can get in there, which what does this say on it? 0.3. That's kind of like the biggest one that I can get in there. The others are, the bigger the better, because I just don't want to have this thing, I want it to seat well, but I don't want it to snap off. And all right, so next size up was actually the 15/64, so I believe I've gotten in there again even deeper, but now I'm still not hitting the aluminum, I don't think. I don't see any rust areas showing through where the threads have kind of broken through there, so let's hope for the best. All right, well, it's out, and came kind of out in bits and pieces, but out nonetheless. And I've run a tap through there as well, an 8mm 1.25 tap, and I've tested that I can now thread the stud back in there, and any new studs I get. So I think we've saved the day. It was a bit of a pain in the arse, but nonetheless, we're done. All right, so with the stud finally extracted and threads chased there, I can now move on to starting to clean this filthy engine up. So I'm going to use my usual process, which is a toothbrush and kerosene and a scraper or pick or whatever I need to get into some of the nooks and crannies there. So yeah, and then once I think kerosene's taken off the bulk of the crap, then brake cleaner, parts cleaner, whatever you want to call it, just to get all of the oily residues off. And yeah, we're just going to pick away at this thing. It'll take a while. And then once it's clean, I'll either going to paint it right away, or I'll set it up on its side and see about doing a dry fit on with that GSXR frame. So that's going to wrap up for this video. Thanks very much for watching. This is going to be a bit of a shorter video, obviously. Been a bit of a crazy week with a lot of other things going on, but I want to make sure I got some content out there for you. So please like, share, and subscribe. And in the next video on the GSXR750, we're going to get this engine cleaned up and repainted. And then the other thing I got to do sooner than later is do a dry fit of that GSXR frame, so I know how easy or how difficult it's going to be to shoehorn this lump of an engine into that frame. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.